All right, guys. Day 5. Technically, it's day 6. But Thursday night, I was looking over everything, double checking on my measurements, and realized that I messed up. It's cool. Players mess up. So let's see what I did wrong and what you shouldn't do. As you can see, I got a little bit ahead of myself and didn't film any of it because it just slipped my mind. But you remember on the back end, I had the tow hitch holding the frame together. Turns out that wasn't holding anything together. It was still, the frame was a little bit twisted. So I ended up taking that off and getting the spare cross member back on, and it kind of lined everything up a lot better. The gas tank cross member, I loosened it up all the way, dropped this back in, tightened it up with some bolts because it used to have rivets, tightened it up with some bolts, and then double checked all my measurements again. And then once I did that, this cross member was still a little bit crooked. If you remember in the other video, it was sitting kind of weird. So what I had to do was re-drill all the holes for this, so I couldn't use the stock hole to align it. So I got this lined up with that cross member, got all the measurements really close, and then finally, it actually made it straight with the frame. And that in turn made the wishbone straight. So then once I got that done, I went ahead and I had to cut these off completely. I cut all these off, the lower ones too. And I had to pretty much redo everything on day 4. So we got that done. And by that time, me and my wife were out here pretty much just hanging out. I was working on this. She was doing other stuff for me. We were out here just chilling until probably about 2 in the morning, and I ended up just getting a wild hair, and I decided to go ahead and weld these in. So I got these tacked in, all lined up. So what I did for this, I got the center mark on the notch, got the differential up to where it was right on the frame, marked the center on that, and then just pretty much centered this where it's gonna go in terms of with the differential. So once I got that done, I tacked it in, tacked that one in, and then fully welded one, and then fully welded the other one, and went ahead and chopped off the stock frame rail, and that's what we got. So now, we got a good amount of travel to go up. And I still got the bridge to put up there, and that one is right there. We'll mark the bags, get the bridge, get these angled right. This one's still a little bit off, but it's not bad at all. Get the bag set up, and then weld in the bridge, and we should be good to go. Let's get to work. So what we're doing today, we'll finish cutting these up, finish welding everything. I'm gonna do another pass on top of the welds already on it. We'll get everything trimmed up nice, and then we'll set up the shocks. Once we get shock set up, then I can weld the shock mounts, and then go from there. All right, guys, we got all these cleaned up. Got it cut, ready to weld. Same with those. So let's finish welding up the notches and then test everything out. I think we should be good for that. Once we get those fully welded, I'll test it out. Tack weld the shock mounts. We'll tack weld the shock mounts and then pull the differential out, weld everything solid, make it look pretty. A little bit of black makes my welds less whack. So let's do it. All right, y'all. So here's what we got. I got the notches welded in. I still need to do the bottoms, but those are a bitch to get to while the differential's there. So once I pull all that out, I'll go ahead and finish welding those. And then what I want to do first before I pull the differential out is get these to match the angle of the bridge at full compression, because that's where the bag's gonna sit whenever it airs out. So as you can tell, this is at about 0 to maybe 1 or 2 degrees. So these are way off. So I'm gonna pull this off and then trim this down. I'm just gonna trim the back a little bit to get it to match the same angle as these, so I know it's level with that. And then once that's done, I'll mock up the airbags. I really wish these would have gone all the way across so I could just weld it, you know. But it hangs out a little bit. So once I get it centered and mounted after trimming the bottom pieces off, I'm going to center this way and that way. And then I'll tack this on. Then I can play with the bottom, the bag mount placing on top of these. Let's do it. All right, here's what we got. So I centered it with the notch. Both sides, and it just turns out that the center mark this way lines up with the corner of that plate for this one. Both sides. And that's right in the middle. So I think that's where I'm gonna tack it. I'll tack it there, mock up the bags with the bottom plate so I can mark the bottom plate to tack that up too. My amazing wife got us some beer. Hell yeah. All right, guys. We got the bag plates on. Now we need to mock up the shocks. So what I'm thinking, this is what it would measure at full extension, which is about 12 inches. I know the bag said they can go 13, but I'm not comfortable pushing them that much anyway. So I'm thinking of putting the shock here, from here to the lower control arm. So at full extension, these are 20 inches. Full compression, they're at 13 inches. I think it's 21 inches actually extended and 13 inches collapsed. Now, here's the part number for you guys. This is a KYB gas adjust, KG5414. That's for the rears. Now, going back to this side, if we put the shock in like so, it'll go welded there and it clears the bag. I already checked it. We weld it there, and then the bottom is not going to be fully extended at max height, so that's good. So it's not forcing the shock all the way to, I guess, max extended. And I'll weld that there, and then the other one will be right here. And I already checked both sides. It'll fit the same on both sides. So let me strip some of the paint on the lower link bars. We'll tack in the shock mount, and then we'll tack it up here, right there. And then I think we're ready to fully weld everything. I'll start on bolting. I'll get the control arm, the shock mounts tacked to the control arms. Then I'll pull that off, pull the wishbone off, pull the diff out, fully weld the diff, or all the brackets on the diff, and then I'll fully weld the bridge and the shock mounts, both sides. Let's get it. Shout out to the homie Lakey for fucking up my time lapse. Thanks for watching though. There it is. Fully collapsed at the bags, not fully collapsed at the shock. Full extension, it doesn't extend the shock all the way. Works beautiful. Now, I just gotta finish welding that shit up and then do that side. I'll do that side, start taking everything apart, do a finish pass on everything, and then cover up my shitty welds with spray paint and throw everything back in. This is my wife, Christina. Say hi.
Hi.
She doesn't know shit about fuck with cars, but goddamn it, she's supportive. That's all a man needs.
I don't know anything.
All right, you guys, I got this fully welded and I put the first coat of paint on it. I got the bridge fully welded. Everything's good. I just still need to fill the bottom of these, but I think I'm gonna fill my TIG because I got a pretty good gap down there. On these, I was doing some measurements and I messed up the lower link bar shock mounts because the gas tank goes to about right here. So I gotta move the lower shock mount over about 2 inches, but it shouldn't affect, I mean, it will a little bit, but it's not gonna limit me on lift or drop with the shock in it anyway. So that's what I'm doing now. Hold on. So these, I got these lined up. I moved it over 2 inches here. That should be good enough to clear the gas tank on the driver's side, and I'm just gonna do the passenger side to match. And I'm gonna burn these in with my TIG though. Let's get it. Alright guys, now we got these done, and that one's done, and all this is done, that is done. Now we just need to chop that and put these down. It's hot. We need to punch these out, both sides, and then I'm gonna have to make some spacers to bring this cross member up to match this one. And once we get that done, then I can pull this one off and we can start painting the rest of the frame, cover up on my shitty welds. And then I need to get some square tubing. I need to make a mount or a cross member to go from here to there. So I can, I got some weld-on battery brackets, and I want to weld the battery mount to that cross member here so I can mount my batteries back here. And then I need to get some compressor mounts, and I'll probably just mount those back here where the old leaf spring hanger went. And then from there I could just wire the compressors to the battery real close, and then I'll just have to run wire to the front of the truck, and that way I gotta have power for the battery up there and fuse box and all that jazz. Then we can start taking the front apart. I got control arms for all that. I don't know where that oil's coming from, but I need to figure it out and clean all that shit up. Under here, I'm gonna have to figure out where to mount all this extra stuff. That came apart. Because I'm gonna have to cut the inner fender wells out. I wish I could afford some slosh tubs or something from like Vanata Fab or something, but it's not in the budget, so it's gonna be trailer fenders. Depending on where we're at, if we can finish up the air suspension and at least get something basic in here, we might be taking out the 454 and the 4L80 and slapping that 6L that I got in the stand over there along with the 6L90 that's right there. Missing a few odds and ends to get that engine completely done. I got the cam in it already. I got new lifters in it. Got head gaskets. I got everything. I just need to clean up the old heads, put the dual valve springs in it, That engine I'm using the Trick Flow. No, not the Trick Flow. I'm using the Tick Performance Stage 3 polluter cam. It's one of the cams that I had in my old RX-7, so that was a real nice choppy cam. And I also, huge shout out to the homie Vinny Bono. He hooked it up with a Circle D converter. That one was custom order, so it took about 4 or 5 weeks, but I barely got it too for that cam. I have that cam, and Vinny Bono also, I got all the parts for the VVT delete. I ended up ordering a BTR cam kit, but I really like that Tick Performance cam, so I'm going to use that one instead. And then I'll use that BTR cam for that other block that's on the ground over there for whatever's next. But yeah, if I do that, then I'll be able to completely take this out. I got to figure out where to mount the fuse box. I'm also deleting the stock ABS because that shit is garbage anyway. It's not even hooked up. The ABS sensors aren't hooked up to the front wheel speed sensors. So the light's always on anyway, and it doesn't work. Shit. So I'm gonna delete this. I got a new master cylinder. I got a new proportioning valve for the disc brake swap. I also got new 3/4 ton rotors, and I also got all new bearings and everything. So when I put the control arms on, this truck already came with Beltec drop spindles, so that's nice. I'll just use the new control arms. That spindle works for the 3/4 ton conversion. The 1 ton and 3/4 ton use the same spindle. I just got brand new bearings, the rotors, new brake pads. I'm gonna order the braided stainless brake lines for the front and the back for that differential. But let's see if we can swing the LS swap at the same time. That way we get everything done. I also got a new electric fan. I'm gonna reuse the 454 radiator. But, oh, and I also have the Cunningham machine steering shaft. I got all new door bushings. It's just stuff that I've been collecting over a couple months. So once all this is done, air suspension's done, we'll see how much money we got left, and then swap that 6.0. That's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for hanging out. This video, actually, I started Friday, Saturday. I worked some of it Saturday, and today is Sunday. I'm tired. 6 o'clock. A little hungover, but as long as we get something done every day, I call it good. So this will be day 5.5, 6. And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out.